for folks who don't know, the Free State Project is a movement of voluntary human action where we are trying to concentrate libertarians in the state of New Hampshire.
I think we've done more in the last decade than every other libertarian movement combined has accomplished in the last 5 decades.
Are my friends and my neighbors who are willing to stand against tyranny, make their voices heard, and have a goddamn impact.
We have a problem where too many people are afraid to say what they believe in, let alone actually do something about it. If you're afraid to stand outside the TSA line and piss off 97% of people who are waiting to just take the farm building up their ass in 5 seconds, then you're probably not ever going to make the change.
Free State Project, again, it's 1% of the Free State movement.
I am a friend of the Free State Project.
And would you encourage people to check it out?
Absolutely. Check it out. Find out. If you like it, join and continue the effort.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, libertarians and anarchists, movers, natives, and those on your way, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Free State Live, where you get to hear all about the ways you can live free or die in the free state of New Hampshire. But first and foremost, it's time to welcome back your host. As always, I'm Justin O'Donnell, former libertarian candidate for U.S. Senate and host of the O'Donnell for Liberty podcast. And joining me is activist and author Carla Garrick, president emeritus of the Free State Project and current board member. How are you, Carla?
Hey, great.
Joining her is CEO of Library and fellow board member of the Free State Project, Jeremy Kaufman. How's it going, Jeremy?
Great to be here, as always.
And this week, joining us of Porcupine Real Estate, the one and the only Mark Warden. Mark, thanks for joining us. How are you today?
Hi, Justin and friends. Great to be with you. Thank you.
Now, for those watching, for those listening from all over the country, all over the world, do you want to make your move to New Hampshire? You just don't know how, don't know where to land, don't know what you're going to do about where you're going to find your first home and how you're going to make that move happen. Mark's here to fill us in because he's somebody who helps people do it every day with Porcupine Real Estate, helping free staters and others find their home in New Hampshire. And he's going to tell us all about how to make it happen. But first, we have 2 minutes for your weekly news update.
Free.
In keeping with the season this week, we have a heartwarming story about free staters embracing the holiday tradition and reaching out to their community. We Heart West, a community organization focused on cleaning up West Manchester and making their neighborhood the jewel of the city, took a break from their regular park cleanup projects to bring some seasonal cheer to their local walking trail. We Heart West volunteers chose a large pine tree along the Goffstown Rail Trail and spent their morning decorating it with Christmas cheer, and have put an open invitation for other community members to join them in spreading the holiday spirit. Learn more about their project at weheartwest.org. In other news, this morning, Americans for Prosperity supporters were out in force to greet Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg and oppose the expansion of Massachusetts commuter rail lines into New Hampshire. Mike Pence came for a visit this past week, raising questions about his 2022 and 2024 plans as he made the traditional media circuit for the presidentially curious. Senator Jeanne Shaheen also did the local media circuit, but to pound the drums of war and make a case for picking a fight with Russia and Eastern Europe. Democrats have doubled down on their demand for mask mandates and vaccine mandates and taken to Twitter to complain about the governor refusing them. The New Hampshire Teachers Union has announced they are filing a federal lawsuit against the state of New Hampshire because they're upset about the new prohibitions against teaching racist and divisive concepts, highlighting the true priorities of public schools and why organizations like Moms for Liberty are so important in the fight for education freedom. And in typical New England fashion, Nashua State Senator celebrates the availability of iced coffee for winter with the opening of a new Dunkin' Donuts on a street that already has 3 in downtown Nashua. That's all for your weekly update. Make sure to tune in again next Monday. If you weren't aware about Nashua's overpopulation of Dunkin' Donuts, I think it really is a problem in the state of New Hampshire. Because on Main Street in Nashua, there are 4 Dunkin' Donuts within a quarter mile of each other. 2 of them are next door to each other in the same plaza.
I can't believe as a libertarian you're coming out against Dunkin' Donuts' choice.
No, it's not even that. I'm just like, it's gotta be money laundering for something. There is just no way we can be consuming this much coffee in this state. I don't know, guys.
I've also heard that New Hampshire has the highest per capita consumption of ice cream, even though it's, cold here for 6 months of the year. So,
well, I mean, some of the best homemade ice cream in the world I've found are here just in local dairy stores. So, little local farms, raw milk.
Well, that was our news for the week, and there wasn't too much of Reeves this week. It seems everybody has kind of calmed down and just paid attention to federal politicians rolling through the state because it's almost an even-numbered year, and that means elections are around the corner. And politics being dead center of New Hampshire, again, one of the reasons the Free State Project is so successful because it's such a highly political state and everyone gets involved at every level. That gets us to how do we get people here? Mark, you told us before the show some of the biggest concerns people have when they talk to you when they're moving, just in general, and where a lot of people are coming from. How many people have you helped move this year alone?
We've worked with about 75 transactions, helping 75 families this year, which is a new record for Porcupine Real Estate. We are a niche firm. We specialize in working with Free State Project movers, libertarians, leave us alone types, gun nuts, and anybody who just really wants to live freer moving from out of state. So we specialize in relocations as well as investors. We found a lot of people who are out of state who support the Free State Project and love what we're doing here, but can't quite yet make the move because of kids in school or business or whatever, that they still want to participate in real estate here, and they're buying investment properties. So sort of a two-tiered approach to what we're doing, but it's been great. And our customers love us because we speak the same language. Just today, I had 2 conversations with people out on the West Coast. One was a couple from Oregon, said it's just, they can't stand it anymore. It's gone so crazy with the BLM and the leftists out there, they got to escape. And they said they just want to be on a piece of property where they can maybe shoot on their own property, raise some chickens, have a goat, not have to see the neighbors and be left alone. And I told them the Free State awaits. We got just a place for you.
Well, I sometimes say that Porcupine Real Estate has better data about how the Free State Project is going than the Free State Project. Because, you sell so many properties to people who are coming here, and libertarians, there's something, sometimes it's weird. They don't want to be on lists. I don't know what that's about. But, we obviously try to track, when people are coming. And by the way, if you're listening to this and you are here and we don't know about it, you can go to fsp.org/updatemyinfo and tell us, but we don't always know, right? And I will say, you're saying you have record numbers. Our numbers also show that we have record numbers for 2021. But you're really seeing the trends in the movement as much as anyone.
Well, that's right, Jeremy. A couple things. One is that we're seeing a lot more from the West Coast than we have in recent history for Free State Project and for my business. A ton of people from Washington, Oregon, and California. Those are nice places to live, but people are just being chased out there by the heavy regulation. It's actually unsafe to live in some of those cities anymore, like Seattle and parts of Portland. And, people are looking at the quality of life in New Hampshire, the safety here, and realizing that it's time. Don't worry about the cold weather in the winter, but get out while you still can. So we're hearing that a lot, and anybody who is interested in Second Amendment rights, school choice, or just low taxation now has New Hampshire on the radar more than ever before. So I think this is a snowball effect. I think we're going to see more and more coming, and thank God for Free State Project to let these people know we're out here.
Yeah. Hey, Mark, I have a question. Do people tell you where they hear about us, or even maybe where they hear about you? Are these just folks like generally searching for Google for like freest place, or what's the story?
It's a little bit of everything, but more recently we've had people just from general searches on Google about taxation and especially medical freedom. That's the thing for the last year and a half, is after all the mandates for masking and the jabs. I got to watch what terminology I use. You don't get get deplatformed or something. But we're seeing, a lot of single issue voters come to libertarianism because of that one issue. It used to be guns and taxation were the biggest sources of interest and movers for New Hampshire and Free State Project. But the last couple of years, we've expanded in medical freedom, educational choice. These are also big things. So it's it's a beautiful, amazing thing to see people who find liberty on one particular issue, but then they come here, they hear about New Hampshire, hear about Free State Project, get here and meet all the wonderful people in our community, and then start to understand the whole spectrum of liberty, how there are many paths to liberty, and understand what these other things are going on. So we are seeing more of that. I must say that the Tim
Pool.
that was unbelievable. What a bounce we got from that. I'm a boomer, so I hate to admit that I didn't even know who he was, but dang, did we get a lot of new interest from that Free State Project. So hat tip to you guys. Also, Tom Woods, of course. Carla, we've had unbelievable mentions from Tom Woods this year. He loves Free State Project. They love New Hampshire. And we've had a bunch of his podcasters mention PorcFest and Porcupine Freedom Festival, porcfest.com. All those things.
Mark's a one-man show. He even does the plugs. We don't even need to talk. He can just keep going, mentions all the stuff.
No, there definitely was a huge influx in people now that kind of the celebritarian podcast sphere with the Tim Pool, Joe Rogan, all of them talking about the Free State Project. Tim Pool's definitely been our biggest cheerleader. But we do have, I was overwhelmed with the influx of commentary and messages we got to this YouTube channel after Jeremy had gone on Timcast with Tim Pool. It just blew everything up. But we do have at least one question that popped up here in the chat on the live stream that I know, Mark, you had mentioned before the show you wanted to bring up and talk about, so I'm trying to find it again. A lot of Dunkin' Donuts comments, but there was a question about the quality of life here in New Hampshire. So, how does the quality of life compare to elsewhere in the country?
Well, I will speak to it from my personal experience, but I'd like other cast members like Jeremy to talk about things like ed choice and raising kids. I don't have any kids. But for me, a couple of things. I moved from Las Vegas, Nevada, a city of about 1.3 million people, and the entire state of New Hampshire is only 1.3 million people. So one of the biggest things for me was the traffic. There's almost no rush hour here. The commuter traffic lasts 15 minutes. It's that part I think is pretty nice. It gives you more time at home with your family, more time to do the things that you enjoy, your hobbies and such, instead of spending time in the car listening to podcasts like Tom Woods and Timcast. So that's one thing. The other thing is the nature. If you're an outdoors lover, I mean, the natural beauty here is amazing. Hiking, boating, skiing and snowshoeing in the winter, boating and hiking in the summer. You got it all, the four seasons, the beach, the mountains. So those things are super important. And for our listeners, obviously, most of our listeners are liberty folks. We'll use the broad term small L libertarians, or leave us alone-ers, or small government folks. For me, the quality of life is about being surrounded by a community that understands you, that speaks the same language, and has some shared values.
Yeah, I think that's really the most important thing for people to appreciate. Sometimes people like to take these abstract comparisons and make it all about these various policy topics. And I think New Hampshire comes out number one in this kind of analysis as well, right? We were just ranked number one by Cato Institute for Freedom. But the concept of community and having neighbors that share your values, that's something that's really difficult to measure, but it is something that you can appreciate if you experience it. And so, my number one thing for people who are curious about the Free State Project is just to come for a visit and come for a vacation. And you don't have to come expecting to move. I'm not saying come here to plan to relocate. I'm just saying come up for a couple of days, come up for a week, meet some of the people here, go to some meetups, and you can come up literally any time. There are meetups nonstop. We will help you plan a trip and find, there are some weekends that are better than others. But if you picked literally any week of the year, you could go to a meetup and meet 50 Free Staters any week of the year. And that's just crazy, right? The fact that we have a 50 plus person meetup in Manchester, New Hampshire, a city of 100,000 people, there's really nothing like it, and there's no way to explain that. We can't show you a graph, right? You've got to come and kind of check it out. And so that's always our top recommendation, is to just come for a visit or even a vacation. Think of it as a vacation. You're not investing in something, you're not committing to it. Just come and experience it and have a good time.
Yeah, and someone asked me at New Movers Party last week, which of course is a fantastic time to come as well. That's always on the first Tuesday of the month. We have one here in Manchester. There's one over at the Shell. I'm sure we'll have more, because as we're growing, we need more of these things. Someone asked me, because we talk a lot about shared values, and I think that's super important. But then they said, well, what really unites all Free Staters? And I was like, well, the flip side of the shared values or first principle argument is actually, we're creating a community of people who are able to be their authentic selves. And that might sound like a little like, what? But when you think about it, really what we're saying, right, is that we believe in personal individualism, right? So it really is this sort of opportunity to come and to bring who you are, and to really come and grow into yourself within the community as well. So, I think it's really cool that people get to move to New Hampshire and then create these opportunities to come into a community and come, bring your energy, bring your authentic self, and then, come help us achieve liberty in our lifetime. Mark.
Okay. You'll find a lot of libertarians that hate masks, but then they wear one at work and around their friends all the time.
Right.
Artemia makes that exact point on the YouTube chat. Ironically, the Free State Project has COVID tyranny to thanks to the surge in movers. And to Mark's point, like, people ask you about guns and politics is when they're thinking about moving. The past year really has been the greatest expansion of government tyranny in our lifetimes. For our generation, and people are sick of it, and they're looking for where they can be free, and that's right here in New Hampshire.
Yeah, and it's really cool that we've been around long enough that we can build this base that that people can come and they can plug into this healthy community that is all over the state. Mark can talk about how there are these different regions within New Hampshire, and they really offer sort of a different flavor for different people who are seeking different things, right? So Mark, the Lakes region is different to the Seacoast. Can you maybe just explain that just briefly?
Sure, glad to. There are 10 official counties in New Hampshire, but there are also different regions called the Monadnock region, which is down towards Keene and Mount Monadnock. Then all of us on this call live in the Merrimack Valley area, which would go from Concord to Manchester to Nashua.
And that's about half the population of the state.
That's right. That's the greatest concentration of people in New Hampshire. If you include all those three cities, it's probably 400,000 people, so maybe a third of the state's population. Yeah. But the biggest town is Manchester at 120,000 people, plus or minus. Nashua's 110,000. So for our listeners who are from out of state, those are still relatively small cities compared to where y'all are from. And then you have the Seacoast, and I think Dennis posted here a great comment about the Seacoast, which we lovingly tag as the Free Coast sometimes. And basically that means the towns closest to the Atlantic coast, the town of Portsmouth, and then nearby towns like Dover, Exeter, Hampton, Rye, Nottingham, Barrington, and Durham. And that's the weather there is a little bit milder, right? So some people like that. Also, a lot of those towns tend to be a little bit more liberal politically. So that's something to be aware of. Anytime you get close to a college town like Durham, New Hampshire, or Concord, or even Manchester or Hanover, you can have a more progressive leftist type of mentality there. So
but I will say that makes it more important to move there. I can understand people don't want to move there, but we need people there the most, right? If you're a libertarian, you come into a town that's already voting libertarian. I mean, that's great. We're happy to have you here wherever you settle. But there's an argument that I certainly buy into, which is I want more people to move to Portsmouth. Yeah, Portsmouth and Hanover are probably the two worst cities in the state in the sense of policy. But that means we need people there more, in my opinion.
Yeah. And then we have so-called Lakes region, which is beautiful. That's up basically surrounding Lake Winnipesaukee and Lake Winnisquam, but it also extends over to Newfound Lake, one of the cleanest lakes in America. And that's about an hour north of Manchester to get to those towns. Then north of that, you have the White Mountains, and that gets into the North Country. So that's another region for people who really want to be left alone, or they're big into skiing, or just don't like populous towns. Those are good options for you. And then another region will be the what's so-called Upper Valley, which is shorthand for the Upper Connecticut River Valley. That's right on the border between New Hampshire and Vermont. The main towns there are Hanover, as we mentioned, which is where Dartmouth College is, one of the Ivy League schools, and Lebanon, headquarters of Dartmouth Hitchcock Medical Center, one of the largest and best medical facilities in New England. So those are sort of your main areas or territories, and a lot of times we have these discussions about, depending on what you're looking for social activity, politics, taxes, schools, homeschooling, guns, community involvement. So we like to have those conversations with folks before giving some idea on where they might want to start their search.
Yeah, that's great. And of course, the Upper Valley is also, Bardo is up in that region. That's the town of Croydon, which of course is sort of our little town that has been very instrumental in expanding school choice over the years. And I think they no longer have a police department. They have 3 of the 4 town people. So anyway, so Croydon is really awesome. And I do want to mention this because I do think some place where we can all start to add value is just really let people know there are massive opportunities here, obviously for people moving, but then also in terms of sort of investment. And if we are seeing this challenge of not having enough housing and having this mass demand, other than slowly making sure that we get all the federal land in New Hampshire ceded back to the state of New Hampshire. In addition to that, a place like Croydon, I just found out there's actually a large parcel of land that's for sale. I think it's 1.2 million. It's part of the Ruger land that he put up for sale. So it's about 300 acres. So if someone is watching this and they're like, hey, what can I do to help further liberty in New Hampshire? You probably want to talk to someone like Mark as well. And yes, and we should be taking over. A very good comment there from our friend Dennis on the Free Coast, Seacoast. We need people to run for zoning boards. Those are typically not even elected positions, I don't think. So a lot of times, if you just show up, you can get on those. But in a place like Croydon, if we bought another 300 acres, there, you could probably subdivide and people could start to put up homes. And so there are a lot of options. People shouldn't just look at the market the way it currently is and kind of go, well, it's too hard, or I've had to put in 2 or 3 offers. And, just remember that there are all these other options. And I do want to give a plug also for that same area in the Upper Valley area. The town of Newport has which is one town over, has this massive mill building that is for sale that I'm just like, I think it's like 3 million. So we maybe need a consortium of some sort, but we could probably put something together that, that is really cool. So again, for the folks, who we want you to move, but if you can't move, we want you to invest in New Hampshire. And honestly, I want to figure out a way that we can legally have people make New Hampshire their main residence. A lot of us are, nomads. We travel a lot for work and whatever, but there's no reason why a lot of libertarians across the nation and across the world couldn't establish their primary residency here, depending on what that looks like. Go spend time other places, but then also from a policy perspective, start to look at how we could protect wealth for people like that who do want to declare New Hampshire their actual residency and domicile. And then, of course, also start voting here.
On on exactly that line, and I know, Mark, you had mentioned that there are some people who don't move and can't move, but they support the Free State Project and want to support liberty in New Hampshire. John Shapani in the YouTube comments asks, how about setting up an FSP REIT, a real estate investment trust? Is that something you and other realtors have looked at or considered or ever talked about before?
Yes, there are a couple different angles that the REIT has to be, I think, approved by the SEC because it's a security of some sort. Jeremy, you'll probably tell us all about that. But there are some other options, something called a syndication or just a small partnership to buy properties. In fact, there were a handful of us who bought an 8-unit building here in Manchester as an investment property, and that went very, very well. And those are a lot easier than actually doing a REIT. But now with the tokenization and the blockchain, there might be some other options coming up. So maybe we'll need to talk to Bruce and others about putting together some partnerships where people can buy tokens to buy in an LLC or some sort of investment vehicle to then buy investment property. And you can have much lower entry points. So all that is doable, yes. Another thing I've been talking to a lot of our cryptonaire friends about is something called a qualified opportunity zone or an economic opportunity zone. And this is an IRS option to help reduce or defer taxes on capital gains. So we can get a lot of our crypto currency people who have a lot of gains on paper. If they're afraid of when they sell their cryptocurrencies, their Bitcoin and such, that they're going to have to pay a huge capital gains. But there's an option in the IRS code called an opportunity zone, allows you to invest in real estate that you fix up, and it defers for a number of years. So I have some angles on that as well. Go ahead.
Good. Well, right. Something else I'll say on the investment front. You know, I'm kind of an efficient market, you know, kind of guy. You know, if there's some great economic opportunity, you know, generally like capital will flood in to take advantage of it, and returns will be reduced to, you know, sort of the general sort of marginal return that's available to your capital. So if you want to get, you know, an above average return, you know, you want to have some advantage that other people don't have. And in terms of investment properties in the Free State Project, the Free State movement is absolutely one of them. You have a constant pipeline of renters that other people don't have access to, and you have renters that are far above average in terms of their conscientiousness, their respect for your property. You know, we're a community here, right? So people are extra concerned about your reputation, right? If you're a Free Stater, you know, you don't want to, I mean, not that I think they'd even be concerned in the abstract. I bet the average Free Stater treats an Airbnb better than someone who's not a Free Stater. But then you have this extra level on top of it where these people are your neighbors, these people are your community, you know? And so I have a rental property. I bought it from Mark. And it's constantly, there's this constant pipeline of people who are interested in it, you know, so it's never been a challenge to find people who are interested in renting, which I think it's my only rental property. So I never had a rental property outside of New Hampshire, but I gather that this can be a real problem. How do you keep it full? How do you find good tenants, this kind of thing? And the Free State movement makes that way easier because there's this constant influx of people who are interested. And so that is an additional reason to consider a rental property here, because you have that advantage that doesn't exist in other rental markets.
That's right. We've seen a lot of our investors be very successful with rental properties, short-term rentals, Airbnb. You mentioned the rental property in Manchester. I work with some other investors who have rental properties in Concord, Franklin. I have some Airbnb hosts. They're killing it. They're crushing it, where they're getting a way higher return as an Airbnb than they are if they had rented it out for 12 months at a time. A shout out to my friends, Matt and Brittany Ping. They have a property management company based here in Manchester. Often I'll set up with some of our investor buyers with them, and it's, you know, that makes it a turnkey investment. So I think there are a lot of opportunities here besides just a REIT. We can do it on a smaller size, whether it's a duplex or 4 units. And it's a great way for people to start investing in the Free State and make a little money on the side.
And I'll add that reputational aspect works in both directions, right? If you work with a random realtor they kind of want to get their commission, and they understand that once they've got their commission, maybe you'd be a customer, maybe you'll leave them a bad review if they're bad or whatever. But when you're working with Free State realtors, these are people, you're going to see them at events. You're going to see them all the time. And I know in working with Mark, who I worked with Mark, I don't know, was that 5 years ago at this point, Mark? It was a while ago, the first time I worked with you. I didn't know Mark very well. I wasn't that embedded within the community. And, it was very low pressure. There was a clear understanding, that Mark was interested. And I think this extends beyond Mark, although I think Porcupine Real Estate is tremendous, that I think this is going to be true of practically any sort of free state aligned realtor that you work with is they're very keyed in. They're part of the community, and so they care about it being a successful purchase for you. It's not just about, getting a commission and moving on. And I certainly didn't feel that way working with Mark. I think it'd be the same working with Ledgeview or any of these other places.
Well, thank you, Jeremy. Sorry to interrupt, Carla, but at my firm, we are mission driven. And for me, Liberty in Our Lifetime is the highest aspiration. It's more than making a commission or making a few extra bucks. For us, it's about people moving to New Hampshire, facilitating that to do whatever we can for Liberty in Our Lifetime. And I think when you see that among our 5 agents, I have 5 agents that work for me, all Free State Project movers, all Liberty activists. I'll do a hat tip and shout out to Constance Spencer, who is our associate broker. She's involved with Latitude Learning, homeschooling co-ops,
Pork Fest.
Pork Fest. She's a volunteer. All of our people are volunteers. We are all in.
I can speak more than worlds highly of Constance. I've been working with Constance for the better part of a year, trying to make a commercial purchase for a nonprofit that we're helping run in Manchester. And she has been there every step of the way, above and beyond what she would have earned on a commission on a similar sale, I believe, and volunteering her time to help it because it's a community-based nonprofit.
Can I just comment on a couple posts on our live chat line, which is awesome.
I've been marking some. Tell me which ones you want to bring
up. We need to have a battle or debate about what the freest town in New Hampshire is. I see the camps are lobbying for Allstead, and personally that's my favorite. But then we have Croydon. Carla mentioned Croydon, Bardo, which is an amazing town. They have Free Staters on the school board and the planning board. And then of course there's the Grafton is the all-time favorite. No zoning rules. You can build whatever the hell you want in Grafton. So I think those are the top 3. What do you guys think?
Yeah, those sound good to me. I mean, we definitely know it's not Nashua and Portsmouth or Hanover.
Those would be my top 3 as well. But my top 3 cities to move to are Nashua, Hanover, and Portsmouth. We gotta balance out. We can't just surrender territory. Look, I'm all about self-interest. So I get it. You want to move to the place that's already one of the freest places. So I'm not going to say not to move there. But sometimes I will see, I see people in the Free State forums who are like, don't move there. It sucks. And I'm like, no, they need to move there more. That is the opposite reaction. We need to move there more. Grafton is already electing Free Staters every election cycle, right? So it's like, the places where we're not winning, my state rep in Manchester, where I also think you should move, she's terrible. She's terrible. She's awful, right? And we're like 150 people away from getting a great libertarian in, So I do think if you're optimizing for impact, it's not to move to the freest places.
No, and I actually agree with you, Jeremy. And in fact, I mean, we're both homeowners in Manchester. So, again, with the caveat that we have a conflict of interest here. But, the cities are here for the taking. I think it's entirely reasonable. It might take a little more work, but there's a lot of potential here for for making the cities freer too. And I just want to give a plug also for whoever said about the traffic. I think that, you can't overstate it if you're moving from a place like California, or if, we want the thinking people from Silicon Valley, move here, come help us build the Silicon Milliard here. But that notion of you can drive across a town, I mean, we literally, we're half an hour from Nashua. And when we're a half an hour from Nashua, we mean we're a half an hour from Nashua, and you can always get there in that time. And it's just always, it's really, we can't overstate the quality of living. And Free Staters, for better or worse, we've invested probably I should probably let Mark say this, but I would say between $250 and $500 million in real estate in the state already, right? And now I think, part of the game is let's start looking at places and start thinking, wow, what can we do? The Bolsons, maybe they need another bailout.
Speaking of the towns to go to, there's a couple questions that popped up. Kelly in chat has been currently in Claremont, bought a place unseen, but looking to find somewhere else and saying where to go. You need to get in touch with Mark, Kelly, porcupinerealestate.com. But another question, a more detailed question from Patty on Facebook. We've been trying to buy at least 30 acres of land to do a family compound. Many towns still have archaic restrictions on multiple buildings on one giant piece of land. Need to do your homework and find out what towns are more lenient with zoning laws. Mark, what advice would you give to Patty and what she's looking for?
Patty brings up a very good point. In New Hampshire, zoning rules vary widely from town to town. They are town and city specific. The state has a fairly light touch in regards to what you do on your own property. The only thing the state really cares about is wetlands and your septic system. Beyond that, the towns will tell you what your minimum road frontage is, what the minimum lot size is, and if you have to have a building permit and building inspector. There are at least a dozen towns in New Hampshire that have no zoning rules, including the aforementioned Grafton. And the one southernmost in the state is a town called Leominster. That's the closest one to Nashua or Manchester. So you buy a house there, as long as you don't run afoul of the wetlands and you get what's called a perk test or percolation test and get a septic system approved, build a straw bale house, build a yurt, do whatever you want. No building inspector unless you want one. And I think those are good options for you.
All right, and Dennis is busy in chat telling Kelly she needs to move to the seacoast. Dennis wants everyone to move to the seacoast. I think we're going to end up that being the competition.
But that's what. First of all, competition is great. I love to see the competition between regions. The Shell is a great reason to live out on the seacoast. Anyone who comes out here, comes for a visit, check out that space. You realize, hey, I can spend 2 or 3 weeknights a week at the Shell, and you may be like, well, I like Portsmouth now because it's such a great space that they've been putting together up there. And I'd say, with all this, the biggest mistake I see people making, and it's a kind of very libertarian mistake, is like, I'm going to research this all on the internet and I'm going to figure it all out. And I'm not against internet research. I did a bunch of it before I came here myself. But having gone through the process, I did way more research than I needed to. And what I really needed to do was just come check it out because it was far more informative, right? We have Liberty Forum coming up at the beginning of March. There's the 500th crypto meetup in February, which is another great time to come. Come up for an event like this. Spend a couple of days after the event, not before. Always book your time after the event because you're going to meet people at the event who are going to tell you interesting things. And go to these areas and check them out. And it is so much more informative than the internet research. Oh, I don't know about that one.
I have these conversations all the time, pretty much every day, with people considering moving to New Hampshire for Free State Project about where to live. We talk about all these different criteria. It really depends on what the family is looking for. Do they need to be close to a job? Do they have a certain type of school they're looking for? Homeschooling? But another thing we talk about is politics, and we've touched a little bit on that tonight. Carla and I guess, and Jeremy and Justin are all very involved in politics. I'm a state representative, Republican rep out of Manchester. And so when I have these conversations, I also ask potential movers, how do you want to get involved? Would you like to join a planning board or zoning board like Gordon Kemp? Would you like to join a school board like the people up at Bardo Farm like Jody? Would you like to be a state rep? If so, well, let's talk about that. Before you plunk down a down payment and buy a house, which districts are going to be better opportunities for you to run and be successful electorally in the future. So let's have that private conversation. Just give me a call.
So Mark's the only one who can say he's honorable on this show. The rest of us are just partly dishonorable, I suppose. But yeah, you make a really good point. And I do think for people who are just, finding out about us and sort of curious about what this whole landscape is, there is a residency requirement to actually run. So you have 2 years. So you could come to New Hampshire, rent for a while, kind of get a better sense of what works for you. Sometimes, someone like me, I knew I needed to initially be close to Boston. And then I somehow thought I was going to live in the country and raise chickens and that was going to suit me. And strangely, that wasn't quite the fit for me. And so, if you build in a little window for yourself, or maybe even rent before you buy, if you can, or if you have a small, if you don't have to just, relocate with a certain size. And that will also give you a sense. But then I do want to encourage people when you move here to really, really seriously consider before you run for office, run for a board, run for school board, get involved with Moms for Liberty, run for a planning board or a zoning board. You can make a massive impact there by really restoring property rights, because that's really what it's about, right? That's why we are moving to New Hampshire and saying that we all want to come together so that we could say, here are the rules of how this world's going to work. We're going to all agree that we like property rights, and what's yours is yours and what's mine's mine. What is the craziest, Mark, property you've ever looked at in New Hampshire?
It's probably our friends Domes and Henniker, actually.
Which, if you come for a visit, they have events all the time. So the property Mark's about to describe, you can come and check out.
And we do have some people who have built a straw bale house.
Well, you got to describe. People don't know what that is. We know when you say the domes. We know.
Okay,
you got to tell people.
In the town of Henniker, New Hampshire, a friend of ours, the late great Rick, built 2 geodesic domes connected by a hallway, and it had a dual heating system, including an exterior wood burning boiler, and gardens and chickens and goats. And indoors inside these geodesic domes, you had a skylight where you'd climb a ladder and look out the pergola to look at the surrounding acreage. So it made a very nice defensible position, as a matter of fact, like a gun wall. And we've had a number of our friends live there and own those places over the years, and it's been a nice destination to stay temporarily. A lot of people have stayed there in their RVs and mobile homes while finding a place to live more permanently. And it's really a beautiful vibe and a nice place. But I did list that for sale, and it was a big challenge to sell that on the general market. So ultimately, we found some Free State Project friends, fellow Liberty folks, to work out a special deal with the seller, because it wouldn't go for normal conventional financing. It needed some special arrangements.
So speaking of that, sorry, Justin, your mic's off.
I muted myself again. I was going to ask Mark if that deal included any of that magical Bitcoin you guys take.
Yes, it did. There was some cryptocurrency involved.
So how difficult is it to do a real estate transaction with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency?
Okay, I've done a number of them. I sold my own house personally for Bitcoin, and it was actually pretty easy. The big thing was working out with a title company that would agree to this sort of arrangement. And I got a title company that I'm very friendly with to open up a wallet, a Bitcoin wallet, to accept the down payment. and we wrote up the contract that the purchase price was in X number of Bitcoin. Then we put an escape clause for the buyer and the seller that if the value of Bitcoin vis-a-vis US dollar went above or below a certain range, that either party could back out. And it was okay that after 30 days, they did their due diligence. I was a seller. The buyer did due diligence, did inspections, and the value of Bitcoin against the US dollar stayed within a certain range. And we closed. And my title company said it's the fastest transaction, smoothest closing he's ever seen. Wow. It actually was faster than doing a wire transfer, because a wire transfer can take several hours. So what we did is at the closing table, we looked up on Jeremy, whatever a wide exchange is, what the value of the Bitcoin was at that time. And we were at the same table. We agreed that was the number. We said, okay, the US dollar equivalent for that many, for our original proposed price was this many Bitcoin. He sent the Bitcoin from his phone to my phone wallet. The title company sent the deposit in Bitcoin from his wallet to my wallet. And then we sat around and waited for so many, what's it called, Jeremy? Confirmations. And then after like 20 minutes, we had 3 confirmations. We knew it was irreversible. We shook hands, handed over the keys. Everybody celebrated, had a bottle of champagne. And the title company said that was way faster than we could do with a wire. So we've done that. And we've also done, Porcupine Real Estate has worked with some buyers and sellers who took partial payment in dollars so they could pay off their existing mortgage and accept the balance in Bitcoin. Again, we set up wallets, exchanges, and waited for confirmations at the closing table. Wham, bam. It was beautiful.
That's great.
Well, I'll do a plug here. Now, this is not me. I'm a city boy, and I actually want Manchester to like grow in size by some ridiculous multiple. But for people who there are a lot of free stater types who are interested in doing that, doing the homesteading, getting some acreage, raising chickens, this kind of thing. And there is a free stater who has written a book, actually 2 books. He's a very good author. He's also won awards for his sci-fi novel. He won the Prometheus Award for Best Sci-Fi Novel. One of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. And it's called Escape the City by Travis Corcoran. I don't know if we can put up a link. But this is a ridiculously detailed guide for sort of intelligent, maybe a little bit nerdy people who want to learn how to do these things. I went out to his house. He keeps a bunch of sheep. He butchered a sheep, did it all himself, and we ate it for dinner that night. And he's learned all this. He wrote a book about it. He was also on Tim Pool with this book. So if you want to see a longer interview with him, you can see his Tim Pool episode. So for people who are interested in this kind of thing, maybe don't know how to do it, this is a great book to check out.
Travis is amazing. He's a Renaissance man. He's a real do-it-yourselfer.
Yeah, and so we just had a comment from someone who may possibly have done the most move-in parties ever.
Help me move in.
Huh?
He helped me move in.
Yep, he has helped everyone move in. And now I forgot what the question was because it went away.
Well, I will say this is because
Kurt said he helped to move in too.
Well, yes. You can check me on this because I've seen this happen on social media a couple of times where we're like, we'll help you move in. And people are like, I've got it. It's fine. If you're coming here, it's kind of a tradition. I would like to see it continue. People really like doing it, and it's a great way to make friends. If you're moving here, free staters will come and move you in. They'll unpack everything. An absurd number of them will come, and they will do it absurdly fast. I think my entire house was moved in like 40 minutes. I've seen people post like they unpacked my entire truck in 20 minutes. This kind of thing it's a fun thing. It's not an imposition. Yeah, I think some libertarians have this sense I don't want to impose. It's not an imposition. And so if you're coming, if you're relocating here, even if you just got a card's worth of stuff, whatever, people want to come out, they want to meet you, they want to help you. And it's a great way to sort of form some connection. So if you are relocating, please tell us. I have to find the link, but you can tell us that when you're coming, we will. We have a link for specifically the moving for people who have a plan.
The link's
moving.
on the screen. You go
That's
to the
one,
website.
yeah.
You fill it in.
Yeah.
And Chris Lopez will schedule you a moving party. You'll get to meet your new neighbors and your new best friends in your community, and start off your New Hampshire journey on a fantastic foot.
Yeah, so if you're coming here, please consider doing this. It's good for you. We like doing it. So yeah, this is a great tradition to take part in.
And it is also, it's one of those regular kind of pay it forward things. We are a community. And so with community, it means, you gotta give some to get some, right? We believe in mutual exchange and trade. And so for people who have moved, who got someone to help them move in, remember to pay it forward and go and help, so that I love that we have heroes that have literally gone to every move in for like more than a decade, but it's really awesome. It's also a great way for fairly new movers to connect with the people who are coming in around the same time as you, because one of the things we're seeing is we have this sort of alumni classes, because you tend to really bond with the people who come in your same year. And so that's a good way to make sure that you're also integrating in. Some of us have been here forever like me, so it's a really good way to make sure you're meeting old timers, but then new timers, and then still creating this vibe of the community of trying to help each other. I see there's another note, but I can't. There was a great party and more people. And then also the tradition is, if you're the person being helped, make sure, try and give us lead time. It's better if it's on the weekends, obviously, then we can have better turnout than, at noon on a Tuesday. And as is customary, you provide the pizza and the beer or the drinks, just, to say thank you. Now I must ask a question, because we're all just sitting here with teeth, our mouths full of teeth, as my grandmother would say. So Mark, is there anything else as we move towards the end here that we haven't touched on that you think people should know about? We talked about movers, kind of where they're coming from. Anyone who lives in Massachusetts, if you haven't moved yet, I'm going to start shaking my finger at you. There really should be no libertarians left in Massachusetts. So anything else, Mark?
Yeah, one of the things that we hear from people moving from particularly the Midwest or other parts that are more affordable than New Hampshire is that the cost of living feels a little bit high here. But in reality, we need to look at the cost of living to quality of living ratio. And I think that's one of the lowest cost of living ratios in the country when you consider how great New Hampshire is, how free we are. The Libertarian and Free State Project Porcupine community is huge. It's a huge advantage that you're not going to have anywhere else in the country. If you have children, this is a very safe place. The quality of education is very high. The educational choice is amazing here, whether you want to homeschool, private school, co-op, different options for you. Charter schools are fantastic in New Hampshire. So there's really something for everybody. So don't just look at purely at the dollars of renting or buying, but rather the overall quality of life. And of course, taxes, the tax burden is relatively low in New Hampshire. It's one of the lowest in the United States, with no personal income tax and no sales tax when you go to the store. You can imagine going to the Best Buy and ordering a TV for $499. You go to checkout and it's $499. No sales tax. So we can walk you through these things. If you have special interests, whether it's guns or knitting or homeschooling or politics, talk to the people on this panel tonight. we'll walk you through and do some networking. We love networking and introducing you to other folks who share your passions.
All right. Well, it has been a fantastic show. Great questions, great information from everybody. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Thanks again, Mark, one more time for joining us tonight. And we do have a few things to remind people of. First and foremost, upcoming this weekend, sold out. You might not have gotten your tickets on time, but if you did, remember to show up. The Seacoast. Dennis Pratt will tell you all about it. They're going to give tours of the state, tours of the Seacoast, tell you why you should move specifically to the Seacoast. And Dennis will make sure you make up your mind by the end of it. And after that, if you want to check out other events happening in and around the New Hampshire Liberty community, check out fsp.org/calendar for your calendar of events that happen every single day. It's impossible to not find something to do with the Liberty community on any given day in New Hampshire if you're just willing to open that page and see what's going on. Coming up in February, we got a couple of events. We have Porcupine Day, February 3rd. Nothing public announced yet, but something's going to be happening. So keep an eye out and keep tuning back in for what's going to be happening on Porcupine Day, celebrating the triggering of the move for the Free State Project. And the Free State Cryptocurrency Meetup is selling tickets in advance of their 500th consecutive weekly meetup, the longest running cryptocurrency meetup in the world. They haven't missed a single week, not even for COVID, not even for lockdowns. You can go to freestatecrypto.com to get information and get your tickets today. And you can only buy your tickets in cryptocurrency. Awesome. I've already got mine. Make sure you get yours. And coming up also in February, the Liberty community coming together on both sides of the political aisle that matter for a charity hockey game between the Libertarian Party and the Republican Party to raise money for the Children's Scholarship Fund of New Hampshire. If you're in the area, it's going to be in Manchester, I believe it is. I could be wrong there. I've got to double check with Murray. But it's going to be a fantastic day out. It's going to be a fantastic day with friends. Get to watch some hockey, put politics aside, and raise money for a worthwhile charity and a great cause. And last but most certainly not least, first weekend of March, the New Hampshire Liberty Forum. We've got speakers coming in from all over the country, all over the world to tell you about how we are winning with the Free State Project and living our most free lives every single day. Legislators like Mark are going to be there. People who work daily in the State House, people who lobby with the New Hampshire Liberty Alliance are going to be there. Big name people all across the country. Keep an eye on this YouTube channel's community page for some updates coming. Check us out on Twitter at Free State NH for your updates. Make sure you go get your tickets today so you can join us that first weekend in March for a full weekend of Liberty. And once again, thanks for tuning in tonight. Mark, where can people follow you and learn more about what you do?
We lost Mark. Go to Carla.
Okay, am I back?
There's Mark. Mark's back.
We are on Facebook at Team Porcupine Real Estate. And of course, on the web, you can find us at porcupinerealestate.com.
All right. And Carla, where can everybody follow you?
I would go to my Twitter. Can someone follow my Twitter? I'm fucking hilarious, and I get like one like. I don't know if I'm shadow banned or a moron or what it is, but go to my Twitter and like everything.
And Jeremy.
You can follow me on Twitter. My full name, Jeremy Kaufman. You can also follow me on Library at KAUFFJ. It's been great talking to y'all.
All right, and if you guys want to follow me, I'm on Twitter at O'Donnell4NH or O'Donnell4Liberty.com. You can check out my other show, O'Donnell for Liberty. But I'm back here every single Monday night with these awesome people to tell you about how you can live free or die, and make sure you get here sooner rather than later. So till next time, be free.
Peace out, guys.